Welcome to A Bird's Eye View. I'm Brad Beauchamp, EV Product Segment Leader at Bluebird. In this episode, we have our friends from IMMI, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves here to talk about school bus safety.
Hi, Brad. I'm John Barrington, the Executive Director of School Bus Sales for IMMI Safeguard.
Glad you're here, John.
Good to be here.
Yeah, and good afternoon. I'm Norm Gould, School Bus President, as well as IMMI CFO.
Glad you're here. Thanks, Norm, for taking the time out to come and visit with us on Bird's Eye View. So talk to me a little bit. It's been over a year that we did our announcement, right, that seatbelts were going to become standard. Talk to me a little bit about how, since that time frame, things have kind of progressed and shaped up, and what it's looked like for the IMMI side.
Oh boy, it's been a really eventful year. It was last October of 2024 that we started producing seats here and producing the safety seats and the 3-point belts for Bluebird. And now we're, fast forward to this October, and we're going to be introducing the airbag. So the safety message and the safety flag that Bluebird's carrying is really just keeps going, further up the flagpole. So it's been an exciting, hectic, really, there's challenges there, but really a great year for the relationship, I think.
Very, very good. In a very unique year in the fact that what are other school bus manufacturers offering seatbelts as standard?
Right. None. Bluebird is the leader in that, and they really have taken a lead in that segment. So.
But who would have thought that, right? I think almost everybody thinks there's seatbelts in just about everything, right? You get on an airplane, ride in your vehicle, they got child seats that are out there, and school buses didn't have seatbelts. Wow. So Bluebird made them standard, and IMMI, along the way, we were able to make that path happen. That leads into the airbag thing, right? Well, they don't have seatbelts, and Bluebird's made them standard, and IMMI's worked on that. What about this airbag thing? What's that all about, right? Don't all vehicles have airbags? Aren't they required by law to have airbags?
Yeah. So in the automotive world, yes, and you've hit on the thing. I have traveled for lots of years, and people, you get on a plane, ask what they, what do you do? Well, I work for a school bus manufacturer. And the next question is, do they put seatbelts on those things? It's like, well, no. And then there's no easy explanation as to why they don't. And then it's kind of the same thing with airbags. You may not get the question as much, but it's like, hey, why don't they do airbags? They've been in automobiles for, 30 years, 40 years maybe.
It was my first course. I took 1989. Think about that. That's when I took that first SIR, supplemental inflatable restraint. Now it's SRS because there's airbags everywhere, right?
Right.
Supplemental restraint systems.
Right.
So I think many people are shocked when they find out that there aren't airbags on school buses as well. I know when I came into the industry, it was shocking to me to understand that many of our school bus drivers are driving around without that safety feature available to them today.
And now they're coming to the Bluebird buses standard, which is pretty cool. I think the important message behind that is often it's beyond the wow, they don't have seatbelts, but then it's in the airbag as well. It's the why. Why is that important? And we all know that, like in an incident, in an accident, in a collision, that driver is the one that usually is the most responsible and able to get people out of the vehicle should they need to evacuate the vehicle quickly. Talk to me about the importance of that airbag being there for that driver.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. That first, what's the first safety thing that you really want in that bus after an accident? And that is an adult that is, in good shape and can help those kids get off the bus. So there's that. The other thing is a big issue today is driver retention. And so that safety message that, hey, we care about our drivers at this school district or at this contractor that has a Bluebird bus with an airbag in it. That's something that should really resonate with the driver and say, hey, this is a company or this is a school district that really cares about me and what I'm doing. And it helps me do my job. I think we all know that school bus drivers are very interested. That I mean, they are very committed and passionate about what they do, and so having that kind of safety factor shows that, hey, this is something that my employer cares about, and I can do my job better.
That's a definite true statement. Hard to find drivers, but if you can have some sort of attraction to, hey, we want to keep you a little bit safer, right? I would imagine even the seatbelt scenario, keeping the kids a little bit, I'll say more restrained and in a safer position, would also be a driver retention tool, kind of residual driver retention tool, something that happens that's just beyond the actual device itself. So as you went down the path to try to work through, school bus, the safest on-road transportation in the entire country, right? And actually we serve the U.S. and Canada. It serves in Canada as well, right? And for all these years, it's the safest on-road transportation without seatbelts, right? So when we put these seatbelts in, it takes the next level. Talk to me a little bit about how you went down that path to develop these safety devices and what it took, what you had to think through that's a little different from a passenger car or some other vocational vehicle.
Yeah, well, the seat belts, the 3-point belts in school buses really starts, I guess about 30 plus years ago now, with IMMI, and actually coincidentally that was a project that was done with Bluebird at the time. I think Bluebird had a grant for the Bus of the Future. And
Bus of the Future.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that one in a while.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about it again.
And so Bluebird and IMMI had a working relationship at that time. And so that really, we were already in the integrated child seat looking at that, and that was a product that we were pioneering. And so they did the first installation of 3-point belts on a school bus. And that really got, I think, IMMI started to look at how seat belts could evolve into school transportation, because the school bus is a pretty unique vehicle on the road. And from that point on, it's just been a continuous progression of improving the characteristics of the seat belt, how it performs in a school bus.
So it's a pretty long runway.
Absolutely.
It's a pretty long runway. And for it to become standard is actually really cool at the end of that 30-year runway.
Yes.
And Brad, we have a test center at IMMI as well. So we work with the OEMs as we're developing from a seatbelt standpoint and then doing the testing within the application of the bus itself as well. And so it's a collaborative, effort back and forth to make sure we're developing the best safety.
How long has that actual dynamic testing center been around? It's called CAPE, correct?
It's called CAPE, yeah. Center for Advanced Product Evaluation. It's been around since the 80s. So our founder, Dick Anthony, kind of had a vision of, hey, if we build this, we're going to be able to help a lot of these bigger manufacturers. Your automotive industries, they have a lot of their own test centers, but like school bus, for example, being able to have a facility that can help to develop and test new product, not just seatbelts, but our testing center helps develop other stuff as well for those industries.
So they can actually, and I realize you can model just about anything, right? But nothing can substitute for real world testing, including destructive testing.
Correct.
And in order to test seatbelts and airbags, sometimes you have to bend some metal.
Yeah. You get that baseline, then you can do your additional CAE testing from there. Correct. Yep.
So very cool. So us making that standard and working together on that, I mean, that concept and idea, do you think that'll end up spreading to other places as well beyond school bus? You think it'll end up in other vocational vehicles? Is it a call that you're getting from a lot of other vocations, or is this kind of one of the biggest seatbelt and airbag projects you've done in a vocational vehicle?
So it is from an airbag standpoint. We have airbags, fire trucks, fire vehicles. It is available in some commercial vehicles, but this is a very large project from a standpoint of a commercial vehicle and with a school bus. So yeah, I think that we're going to see that item catch on. I think we're really going to see it take off in the school transportation segment. Mm-hmm. Seat belts with Bluebird's announcement, I think that's going to have we already see people that maybe otherwise weren't we're not considering 3-point belts starting to question, hey, why aren't we doing this, or why aren't we doing this at our district? So yeah, it's things sometimes take time, But yes, it absolutely moves the conversation further and moves the ball further down the field.
And Brad, we serve a lot of different markets. When you ask about seatbelts, I mean, we have seatbelts in a lot of our different industries. And really, school bus was on kind of the back end of that, right? And so that's what we're excited about. You know,
So there's a lot of places that
most precious cargo that we have is our children, and so being able to put seatbelts on school buses and make sure we're bringing our children home safely to their parents. I mean, we're excited about that.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, school bus being later in the adoption cycle for seatbelts, you know, it's already, you know, going back almost 50 years now. It's compartmentalized, right? A lot of people don't understand what that means. Basically the way the seats are anchored, the spacing between the seats, the height of the cushion, in most incidents, you know, is enough to keep you safe. But that seatbelt, the 3-point seatbelt, adds that additional measure for situations that are, you know, beyond what a compartmentalization can actually handle. And like, you know, to your point, some of the other vocational vehicles are much different in configuration. They didn't have that standard to them, so they actually needed that technology first.
Don't forget to check out our new Bluebird merchandise store at the URL at the top of your screen.
You know, safety-wise, you know, seatbelts and airbags, is there anything that the adopters would need to do differently on those buses as they're maintaining them?
Oh, so I guess take it two parts. From a seatbelt standpoint, no. I mean, there's not a regular maintenance thing. I mean, they you know, you have to inspect it for wear and tear like you would other things, but really there's not a regular maintenance schedule. And really, I guess that's the same thing you could say for the airbag. Airbag works like the airbag in your automobile. It's there.
So it has similar diagnostics?
Yeah, similar diagnostics.
There's something that's not and follows SAE protocol, it'll let you know, and you can make so fairly easy to adopt. There isn't anything that the maintenance crew or even the driver is going to have to think about other than inspecting that equipment to make sure it's operating properly. Right. Just like any other feature.
Yeah, they need to be aware of it, that it's there, but yes, it's going to behave like you would expect it to behave.
So driver assist features are all the rage, and we kind of touched on it. We didn't talk a lot about it, but we were talking earlier. We talked about a lot of other things, didn't we? But it was like went down the path with analog brakes, and actually school bus was one of the early adopters of analog brakes. Now, you know, stability controls and all those things. What are you seeing, or what kind of calls, and what are you hearing from vocational users as it relates to the driver assist features?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a division. We make steering wheels, and so we are seeing people come to us with as a driver assist, and making wear around the vehicle. Are there things that you can do with the steering wheel, haptic responses, those types of things? So we see quite a bit of interest in that direction. In other vocations as well as the school.
There's a lot of driver interest when we show some of that prototype product at trade shows. Drivers are extremely interested in being able to keep their eyes on the road and have that haptic kind of feedback and buttons and so forth right in front of them. Yeah.
So it's a big focus for us.
Yeah. So definitely something that people are considering as we evolve. Right. It's the same thing as you mentioned with airbags and seatbelt systems, and they're on your passenger car, and now you've got these driver assist features, and you're starting to wonder, okay, which one of those applies to school bus? But the same thing kind of that, causes school bus to be late in adoption is it's a lot more difficult to execute when you've got all that activity both inside and outside the vehicle.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you've got a lot of things. In a lot of cases, you have a lot of things going on where you're putting 50 or 60 kids on that bus, so you've got people around the outside of the vehicle. So yeah, it is something that you have to take your time, do the development right, and get everything, try to take in all the use cases, a lot of testing. So yeah, it's the payoff is worth it from a safety standpoint, but you do have to do your homework.
Yeah, so let's go down the path of just airbags and seatbelts and the payoff, right? Obviously, your children's safety is our business. There you go. I put it in there. It has to do that, right? So talk to me a little bit about just those two minor adds, right? And they're major in a safety aspect, but they're minor adds. You put some belts in the seats themselves, and you add an airbag to the steering wheel. What's the payoff on that?
Well, So I had a gentleman a long time ago, industry veteran, ask me, hey, what's the most important safety aspect of the school bus? And, I'm trying to come up with the textbook answer. And finally he says ridership. The more kids that we get to ride a school bus, the safer those kids will be going to and from school. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. Well, I think the American School Bus Council several years ago did surveys with parents as to what, what would get them to put their children on a school bus more often. And seat belts on a school bus was one of the top, 2 or 3 things that, hey, if they had seat belts, I would feel better about my child riding that bus. So that's the payoff. That's hey, ridership. So we think you can improve that ridership when you use 3-point belts. The capacity situation, which is things we've developed around, it's not there anymore. So you can get that ridership. You've got a safer situation for your passengers, and the airbag, you've got a safer situation for your driver.
So that sounds like that's almost a priceless ad, because it's like one of those where you're riding on the safest vehicle already. The seatbelts are making it one step even safer, and it's also from an impression of those that want to make sure their children are going on a safe vehicle. That seatbelt's important. When you put all those together, you're putting somebody then or more people on the safest on-road transportation there is. And 25 million kids a day are transported by nearly 500,000 school buses in the U.S. and Canada, right?
Yeah.
So keeping that ridership up is super important.
Right.
Is there anything that you can think of geography-wise that would change an airbag or seatbelt system in a bus? Or is it really cover all the provinces in 50 states? It's kind of equal. It's one of those features you put on and it works anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, that it absolutely works. Everywhere a yellow school bus is operated, it works. Right. So, yeah.
So not only easy for maintenance staff and drivers to learn, but also doesn't matter where you're running. There's no reason not to have that equipment, right?
That's right.
Has there been any resistance at all? Have you heard any resistance? The negative side, there's always, unfortunately, those that are out there that maybe sometimes it's just an educational outreach piece that's needed. But what kind of things have you heard? Anything on the negative side?
I think you always have, some of that type of feedback where somebody may say, well, if there's a bus that catches on fire, are you going to be able to evacuate them? And so we help to work with different parties to study that kind of stuff, because if you can keep the child positioned in their seat, and all of our children are used to wearing seatbelts, they wear them in their automobiles, right? And so if you can keep the child positioned, you can keep the driver safe. What we believe is that it actually allows for evacuation in many cases to be quicker, right? And so there's some of those type of myth busters, I guess, that are out there that we want to respect those feedback items. We want to share that, having your child in a safety belt on the road is by far safer than a lot of the concerns that you may hear that's out there. And for the most part, people are supportive, but you always have some that have concerns for sure.
Always every place you go, every show you go to, there's always some people that look at it and go, well, why are we doing this? This is going to be the unintended consequence. But it sounds like there's not, because keeping the occupants, including the driver, in a position that is as close to when they're riding or driving as possible is super important.
Right.
It helps you not only reduce the amount of injury, right, but it also helps you then be able to identify, like you're saying, quickly identify where those individuals are at and potentially even evacuate quicker.
Right.
Quicker.
Well, and you talked about like compartmentalization, and a lot of that's in a frontal type of collision, but we've seen on the news rollover events. And a rollover event, if a child's not buckled in, if you watch a video of some of the testing and stuff we've done, it scares you. It really, your heart skips a beat for family members that would have to live through something like that. And so having that on there to where, hey, we're going to keep your child safe and secure in event of a rollover is another thing that we're proud of from a safety standpoint, that having tried to put seatbelts on. Correct.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Because they're trying to find if the bus in some way is compromised and not sitting on its wheels like it should be, sometimes it's going to be a lot harder to find the actual students if they've been thrown throughout the cabin.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about where you think the industry is trending or going. Give me some thoughts on what's next. Where are we going next?
Oh, well, so the safety is always a paramount thing. So there are always a lot of safety-related items within the industry. in and around the school bus. So we see things like the passing motorists, those types of systems. How do we address that? But we think the driver is the critical piece in all of these things, and so anything that we can do to address driver safety and passenger safety, that's really where our major focus is.
And I think, Brad, the other thing too, what I found, I'm newer to the industry than John is, right? But as you get into the industry and you realize, well, what do you continue to do to move safety forward, right? Well, it's working with OEM partners. It's working with, some of the safety administrations that are out there. It's getting with school districts and talking with them. It's getting states to advocate for it. And so it's not an easy answer. I think it's a lot of people working together to try to continue to improve the safety for the children.
It's not. You got NASDIPS that comes up with all the federal agencies that come in and talk through their challenges and things that they can present. We had the School Bus Congress this year earlier, right? That was the first time actually live in more than a decade. And it's fascinating because I think the challenge is for both of us is to figure out what fits that mold for all 50 states, right? What in the provinces of Canada. And there's a lot of technologies that unfortunately aren't a one-size-fits-all. And we're the largest public transportation system, by ridership in the U.S., right? So in Canada gets lumped into that just by nature because our product touches them and the standards are similar. Right. But you hear that what's next kind of being something that you really have to think through because you got urban, suburban, rural, you got high altitude, you got cold weather, you got hot weather, and all these things to contend with that form factor wise, the bus is relatively the same, but all those other external factors make it a lot more challenging. Then let's say a 53-foot class 8 tractor trailer going down the road. Right. You kind of have an idea what it's going to do on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's so 50 states and 8 Canadian provinces. So I mean, there's really 58 markets out there, and they all have some unique characteristics about them. So you have to approach them kind of individually. So yeah, it's trying to work through all those, the professional organizations and with the customers, with the end users, and to drive the message. So that's really the blocking and tackling of it.
We certainly all embrace that difference that those 58 entities provide us, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Everybody has those 58 entities all have specific needs. Right. And we're all trying to work together to make sure we address those needs. There is no one size fits all.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, is there anything I missed? What did I miss here today?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, I guess the thing I'd probably mention, it would be from wearing 3-point lap and shoulder belts. I mean, one of the other kind of, I'll say, hidden advantages is that when you talk about safety, from a driver standpoint, is if you don't have belts on a vehicle, in my younger days, there weren't belts on the vehicle, and I can remember, turning backwards and poking on the person behind me and so on.
I never did that, right? So I don't know anything about it.
But it's interesting when you put the child in 3-point lap and shoulder belts, they're stationed, they're positioned, they're better behaved. And so from a driver standpoint, you want to avoid the driver being distracted. And so we found that's a big advantage also the lap and shoulder belts is it's also allowing for that driver to be less distracted, thus safer vehicle on the road as well.
And I get the extra layer. So if I have seat belts, I have a driver's airbag, and I'm in my EV school bus, right. That takes it all to a new level because not only do I have children that got in and buckled themselves in, but the bus is actually so quiet that they're sitting in their belted position very quietly as well. Or if they are talking, you can at least communicate back and forth.
Right.
But I've seen that already with the belting systems where passengers of any size and stature usually get in and quickly try to buckle themselves into the seat.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great unintended consequence that's actually a benefit to the driver, and that could even promote driver retention as well.
Correct.
Student behavior is certainly super important for that driver as they're trying to safely execute moving those students from one place to another.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to both of you for spending time talking me through the driver airbag and the 3-point belting systems that are standard here coming up here for the airbag as we roll into the next few months. And the belts are already in there that you've provided from the IMMI side, and the insight that you've provided from the IMMI side as well. Thank you for helping us make it easier to make your children's safety our business. without folks like yourselves that are able to actually design those systems, certainly we know on our side that's something that's very difficult to do, and we appreciate the partnership in getting this actually accomplished for Bluebird. That's a bird's eye view on school bus safety. I'm Brad Beauchamp, EV product segment leader at Bluebird.